Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a story about a series of ancient tests, a single dramatic change of direction, and how it all forged a global community, all centered around one simple cube-shaped building. Have you ever really stopped to think about this? I mean, why do more than 1 billion people from every single corner of the globe all turn towards this one building when they pray? The answer is a story that goes back thousands of years, and believe me, it's about way more than just architecture. All right, so to understand the building, we can't start with the building itself. We have to start with the man who laid its spiritual foundation, the prophet Abraham. So Abraham's story, as it's told in the source material, really kicks off with him facing these profound divine tests. And because he passed every single one, God didn't just give him a reward. No, he made Abraham's entire life a public model for all of humanity. The title he was given was imam. Now, this wasn't just about being a king or a ruler. It meant he was supposed to be a spiritual guide, a living, breathing example of what true faith and obedience actually look like in practice. And building the Kaaba, well, it wasn't just a construction project. You can think of it as a 4-step act of pure devotion. First, Abraham and his son Ishmael physically raised the foundations. Next, they were told to purify it, to make it a place for worship and nothing else. And all the while, they were praying, first that God would accept their work, and then for the future generations that would follow in their footsteps. And their prayer, it reveals everything. I mean, look at what they asked for. Not power, not wealth. They asked for a legacy of submission. They prayed for a community that would carry on this path of devotion long, long after they were gone. This one prayer really sets the stage for everything to come. So you see, that whole physical act of building the house was really about establishing one single core spiritual idea: submission. And the key word in their prayer was Muslim. The source is super clear that in its original Arabic, this isn't just some religious label, it's a description of an action. It literally means one who submits to God. And the connection couldn't be clearer. When God says to Abraham, submit, his response is instant. It's total. He says, I have submitted. This is shown as the absolute essence of his faith, a simple, direct, uncomplicated relationship with God. And this wasn't some isolated event. The source emphasizes that this core message, this pure submission to one God, was like an unbroken thread, passed down from Abraham through his descendants, like Jacob and his sons. It's presented as this single, continuous chain of faith. This whole idea sets up a really powerful counter-argument. When later groups would say, hey, you have to be one of us to be guided, the text always points back to the source. Not to a specific group, but to the universal religion of Abraham, just pure, unadulterated monotheism. Okay, this brings us to a huge moment, a real turning point in the story, where this very principle of submission is about to be put to the ultimate test. And what's so fascinating here is that the source actually anticipates the controversy with this very question. I mean, put yourself in their shoes. Your entire community has been praying one way for years, and then suddenly you're told to turn. Of course, people are going to say, wait, what? Why? So that direction of prayer is called the Qiblah. It's the spiritual focal point, the thing that unifies everyone in their worship. Changing it is a very big deal. Okay, so here's what happened. For about 16 or 17 months, the early Muslim community prayed towards Jerusalem. But then a divine command came down. Change direction. Turn back to the Kaaba in Mecca, the very house Abraham had built. So the obvious question is, why? Why make such a dramatic, potentially confusing change? The text tells us the reason, straight up. It was a test. And the purpose of that test is laid out so plainly. It was to reveal who was truly following the guidance out of pure submission and who was just, going along with things. It was a moment designed to separate the truly committed from the hesitant. But this difficult test, it wasn't just a filter. It was a forge. And out of that fire, a new kind of community was created. This one change had a massive impact. It gave the community its own distinct identity with a spiritual center to call its own. It unified them by plugging them directly back into Abraham's legacy. And it gave them clarity, effectively silencing critics who questioned their independence. And the results of all that? This. 1. A single community, a single direction, one visible symbol of unity that connects over 1 billion people to this very day. It's incredible when you think about it. But then the source does something totally fascinating. Right after establishing how important this new direction is, it pivots. It suggests that the direction itself isn't actually the final goal. And this is the ultimate takeaway. The source basically says, look, every community has a direction, but the real point, the real competition, isn't about which way you're facing. It's about what you do. Race to all that is good. That is the universal measure of true faith. Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If changing the direction back then was a test of pure obedience and submission, what does it mean to apply that same spirit to racing to good in our world today? What are the real tests that we face?